Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad? Well, I guess last couple weeks anyway.
Last couple weeks, yeah, it's been a little bit. It's been good. I've been doing some heavy lifting research on a couple of big projects, and got some great results. So really happy about that. Yeah,
I'm kind of interesting what you have to bring for the program this week. If anybody of you watching knows that, well, Chad filled in for me 3 weeks ago almost to interview Sal Lejano. And I just got to say, Chad, you might actually be better at doing it than I am.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that I've got quite a bit of experience doing interviews. So.
Yeah. No, I watched it and I appreciate you. I mean, people probably still hear in my voice that it's a little bit iffy or whatever. And I had some life happen. And one thing that I just have been really focusing on is even though life's happening, God's happening too.
Yes.
So life will be lifing, but God will be Godding.
Yes.
Yeah. So believe in that and understand. But of course, I'm back and better than ever, right? And we're going to continue to do this. And Chad, I just want to take this opportunity to just thank you because I really couldn't be doing this without you. And I want to take the time to thank anybody who has, supported us, that has helped along the way. I mean, this is not something that was able to happen without so many people wanting to be a part of it. And I believe that, I've got some really interesting interviews coming up that you'd just be like, what, who, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. People are starting to contact me and just are realizing that this is an awesome platform where they can come and they can, talk about who they are and what they're doing. And I've got some really good ones coming up. I want to leave people on the edge, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got a good one coming to the Kansan.com this weekend too.
See, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It's another one of those where, the first question people will ask themselves is, why did he talk to that? Or her, sorry. But, the answer is, sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone and you got to start approaching people that aren't in your demographic.
Yeah.
I'm old. I mean, that's what I am.
I mean, you and me both. Maybe.
I got to talk to some people who aren't.
Right. Well, and that's interesting because there are one of the interviews that are coming up, and I'm going to be contacting them, and I know that they're interested in coming on the program. I've already got that, and it's that. I don't necessarily agree with them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make sure that they have just as much opportunity to be able to plead their case to the public, regardless of whether it's something that I agree with or not. And you're going to see a lot of that, people. When you're dealing with me, everybody knows I'm an opinionated person. Everybody knows that I will, have some 2 cents to say about something on most occasions. But don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm a person that believes that transparency is key and that there should be an open public platform for everybody to be able to participate on, regardless of whether I agree with it or not.
You just described my editorial page to a T. I very rarely agree with things that are there. It's not my job to agree with it. My job is to let people pick that thing up and let the conversations get started as a result of what they see. And contrary to popular belief, the quote editing I do to things like letters to the editor is generally just spelling, punctuation, capitalization. We got one serial writer, capitalization's a big issue. But you know what? At the end of the day, I really don't care if I agree with the guy or not. I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's a sign of maturity.
Well, one of our regular columnists is a libertarian. Yeah. And that's a word you guys have heard me use, and I don't necessarily agree with libertarians. I just don't.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's putting that out there, and it's usually when I read through it, I'm like, dude, this is something we need to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and people need a space to speak. Yeah. And it needs to be okay. See, that's one of the things that we have a problem with is, the breakdown in conversation and communication in the community and the obstinance towards, well, I call it obstinate and ignorant or ignorantly obstinate. It's like, take a moment, right? Realize that maybe you don't agree with what this person's saying on the offset or, on the onset. But the truth is that there's something to be learned from everyone in every situation, everything. So because we are going to be on a short time today, our program is only going to be 30 minutes. Chad has some really interesting things that he wants to talk about. And I'm pretty much going to turn it over to Chad because when he came in, he said, hey, I want to talk about this. I thought, my goodness, this is actually right up the lane. We need to be talking about this right now. So Chad, give it to me, Chad.
Well, I handed you a print of a front page that's about 11, 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the headline there?
Borrowed time.
And what's that story about?
The library.
Yeah. Now, again, what year was that?
Oh, let's see here. Where am I year at? 2012.
2012.
July 14th and 15th, 2012. Yeah, that's like right after my birthday.
Mm-hmm. And then if you go into the corner, let's call it the minutia or the detail, we outlined the county debt load in 2012, and they had just put up about $3 million for the Kansas Logistics Park. That Kansas Logistics Park was formally announced. There were some people who knew a little bit about it before that, but the big announcement came in 2011 with Sam Brownback. Now, why is all this is important? The reason this is, I found that front page when I was researching a story for this weekend, which is, the headline is, who's going to be first? Right?
Yeah, because there's something down here that says
3 companies that are racing forward with projects in what was once called the Kansas Logistics Park. We're now using different lingo. We're using Newton Industrial Park.
Yeah.
Right. And there was an industrial park out there decades ago, and it butts right up against the KLP, which was several hundred acres that the city purchased. Yeah. And of course, there were streets put in and a lot of debt taken on.
Well, you often heard road to nowhere.
Right.
We've all heard road to nowhere.
So the reason that front page is so important to me right now is that was kind of the launch of discussion that, we need to consider building a new library.
Yeah.
This building is wearing out. And when you read this story, most of the quotes are coming from the former librarian, Mary Ann Eichelberger. Okay. And she was a real champion of that, but she just, like the rest of us, at some point, we'll all retire and we'll all walk away from what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it came time for her to do that, never realizing that dream. Okay. We're about a month away from a new library.
I know, man. And it's beautiful. Like, I have been watching. It's amazing. They really have outdone themselves.
It's going to be spectacular. And then, that right there, it coupled with, we've had three since December and 2 just this week. 3 companies that have gone through the process to get IRBs. And once you're there, dude, you're building.
Yeah.
You are building.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those companies are going into KLP. Right about the same, even a year before we started talking about this new library.
Yeah.
And I, the reason all of that just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I came up with a line. I didn't use it in the story that I have, but if I decide to do an editorial for Saturday, I'm going to use the line. This community planted a whole bunch of seeds. 11, 12, 13 years ago, seeds were planted, and now we're getting ready to bloom.
Chad, okay, and I don't want to stop you, but yes, if Chad gave me at the bottom, it's talking about that $7.3 million. Okay, if you can see that, but
it's not going to be seen, but that information is there, and I found that because I was researching, just when announcements got made.
Yeah,
and one of the things that really hit me today is as I read through stuff that I wrote, stuff that other reporters were writing, because we actually had other reporters at that time. All of the people we quoted are gone. They're just gone.
Well, and but that also includes like people that were in leadership positions,
right?
So all these
now, I think I spotted one story where we had some quotes from a Suzanne Loomis.
Okay,
she'd be it. Dead serious. Bob Meyer, who was the city manager at the time, he's gone.
Yeah. Well, every commissioner that voted for this,
we have
gone, right?
Every
maybe
county
Leroy
commission
was there. Maybe that was when he first came on. Was right after this happened, right?
Well, and like I say, I don't remember exactly when Leroy came onto the commission, but all of the people that we talked with, they're gone. They're just not. They're not in decision-making roles anymore. And the unfortunate circumstance is that it provides a truism. You know, you've heard me talk about Dolores Dahlke of Hillsborough before, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, the truism is that when you're doing this kind of work, establishing an industrial park, pushing to try and build a new public access building, and it's a big one. You name your project.
Yeah.
When you're pushing for these big, huge projects, you probably won't see the end of it.
Well, and think, you know, we went through this with our school too. Everybody remembers that we had a school bond that did not pass.
We've had 2 of them since that time that went down.
Yeah. And look at what's happening with Lindley Hall. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And what's happening with Santa Fe, and then the life expectancy of the building now is at, 40, 50 years, and the right path was taken. I truly believe that. It's just interesting that, well, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head here, Chad, because I think it's, and I will have to say I'm guilty as well. I was critical. I've said I was critical when I ran for commission. I was like, hey, we did all this. We made all this investment and it went to kaput.
Well, I wrote the stories about New Millennium Wind Energy and how they weren't coming. They just weren't. Nothing was going on. They would keep saying, well, we're doing this and this and this and this, but we weren't seeing any action.
Yeah.
And, I read through some of that stuff and it was like, well, we're going to have it. They announced they were going to have a job fair. And then that came and went and there was no job fair.
Well, they were probably just trying to wait for the economy to rebound. Because if anybody can remember during that time, it just bottomed out. I mean, it just bottomed out. And if we were not the only ones to suffer from
Yes, and some of my friends have heard me say this within the last year or so. I feel like I'm living through 2008, 2009, 2010, 2012. Because it felt like every time I turned around, there was some great momentum for something. And then an economic crash occurred and it was all gone.
Yeah.
All gone. Right? And that's where we're at right now. We're standing on the precipice of an absolutely huge transformative period for our community.
Well, and it would not have happened had those seeds not been planted. So I'm eating my words. I mean, I got to say this. I got to say this. I'm super elated. Everybody knows that I'm into, government, and I'm want to participate in the process. If it's not me personally as a candidate, that I'm somebody that wants to try to really educate myself on who's doing what, when, and where, and maybe what their history is or what they have to offer. And then I try to pick who I believe to be the best candidate, and I just get behind them. I'll support people. If you get elected and you're not my candidate, then I want to make sure that I have a relationship with you, so that way, I have a voice to speak. People know I'm interested. But there's one name that comes to mind on me, Chad, right now, and you're probably knowing who I'm thinking of, but
he filed for county commission about a week ago, and I just haven't written the story yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching. People are filing. It's a little bit too early. You don't know who's going to file.
I'm sure he's going to watch this, and dude, you got to get me your press release. We talked about it. Get it to me.
Well, I tell you, I want him on the program. I want him to come out here. I want him to share his experience, and first and foremost is so we can all learn something as a community, because he personally took so much gruff over their decisions when it came to the water rates and their decisions when it came to this and all, and it's like, well, then because nothing came to be, well, it's kind of hard to tell people for 10 or 12 years, just wait, it's coming, just wait. If we didn't do it, then we wouldn't have this now. And that's visionary. That's responsible. That is, honestly, I'm going to say pretty fiscally responsible to just know that we're going to make this investment today and that it's only a matter of time until the winds change, right? Speaking of, millennial wind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Kevin Pouch.
Yep.
Thank you, Kevin. And I want to thank the other people that Chad's talking about that you know who you are, who have walked through this and it didn't come to fruition and you had to eat crow and you had to have people say it and say you were responsible for it. But now you're talking about, like, we got more than we can handle now at this point in time.
We got a lot. And I'm going to tell you something about Kevin that not a lot of people know. There was something else that he did during that time. And I'm very thankful that he did. He joined me. I mean, this is full disclosure moment, right? And a couple other folks to help form up a board for the Newton Rebels summer college baseball team. Yeah, he did. He did. And he was pretty much single-handedly responsible for making sure that team was able to operate financially for a number of years. And also about the same time that I said, I just can't do this anymore. My kids are getting involved in summer sports. My kids need my time.
Yeah.
So I need to walk away here. It was about the same time he left. He's come back. He's back with the Rebs. They're now the Sluggin' Rebs.
Yeah.
But he's back trying to help push that thing forward. And there was some couple of rough years recently.
Yeah.
For them. So I'm glad that he's back and involved with that.
Yeah. So just a player. He's just making things happen behind the scenes. And if you don't know, you don't know. And we need to celebrate this kind of stuff in our community, Chad.
Yeah. And he never said anything, but I could tell that he carried around a lot of that. He carried around a lot of that stuff that people were just screaming about. And I'm just tickled pink that hopefully, because you can never say definite, right? In the world of economic development, you can never, and until the building is done, you can never really say, here we are. But
don't count your chickens before they hatch, Chad.
I am just so excited that here we're sitting, we are in a great spot.
Yeah. Well, and okay, I'll throw this one. I will concur. Okay. Everybody, I'm sure, who knows me knows that I recently graduated with my MPA, and that it's specific to nonprofit and government, right? That's what MPA is. Well, then my specialization is in economic development. So I'll be receiving my certification in economic development. And part of this whole process, it's funny because if you go ask anybody at Wichita State or any of my professors about me, I'm Mr. Newton. I'm Mr. Newton, Harvey County. That's what you can call me, because every bit of research that I could do, I just focused in on my own community, because that allowed me to be able to give a greater understanding and a greater depth, and hopefully be able to use that wisdom and that knowledge and that time of study as a citizen to be able to advocate on behalf of what is going to be beneficial in our community, or so I believe. And if you got something, come to me and say, hey, Lance, can we do some public transportation? Is that a possibility? Can we do, what are these things that we'll do to make our community better? And the truth of the matter is Newton and Harvey County is in a bullseye right now. Okay. Over the next 5 to 10 years, if you look at population shifts in Kansas, there is a great migration that's happening from the western half of the state, and they are wanting to move to a more, I'll say, metropolitan area where there's jobs and whatnot. And for people out there, if you're from western Kansas, Newton is where a lot of people like to go.
Yeah, because we're generating some jobs right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost a bunch here about 2 years ago, but we're definitely rebounding. And one of the things that I think is important to note is how this time is different. Okay, history can be a great teacher, but we need to take serious note of how this time around it's different. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that it's different. Number one, the promised job numbers are not nearly as high. Okay, and just be straight, right? Tyndall and New Millennium were promising in the hundreds. Mm-hmm. That's not where we are. But let's take a look at the 3 people that are on the string here that have approved IRBs and are wanting to turn ground. Hillsborough Industries. That's not a new company.
No.
They don't have to redesign. They don't have to design a new product. They know what they want. They know what they're going to build. They know what they're going to produce when that facility is constructed.
Yeah. And like 50 jobs, right?
Yeah. CD Customs. Again, this is not a new company. They started in 9,000 square feet in 2012, and they have just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And when this new building is completed, they know what they want to build in it. They know what kind of people they want to hire. They know what kind of equipment they're going to need. These are all known things. They do not have to go out and design a new product. Yeah. They're just growing.
Let's just say not as risky is kind of what
correct,
you're looking at.
Exactly. And then we've got Air Capital Investments, which, again, you sit there and you look at it, it's like, well, he's going to build some warehouse space. The dude has built something like 3 million square feet of warehouse space just north of Wichita over the course of 7 years. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. He knows what he wants to build. He's already been talking to the people that are going to be in it when it gets done. I mean, that's how this is so different. Yeah. Because the first time around with the KLP, when we announced these two companies, both of them were, well, we have to design our product first.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, that's something that I don't think if you didn't point out, people wouldn't necessarily see that in the onset. Like, I'm hearing about these companies. Okay, some companies are coming in. How will they be different? You know, I could be negative and say, oh, same thing's going to happen as the other ones. But you just pointed out how it really is at a base level, foundational level, different. And I'm going to use the word risk, right? And then not only that, if you take these three companies and you put them together, and then you see the other organizations that are coming, like Quick Trip, right, that are providing for more jobs, there are more jobs, then in the end, well, with all this happening, we probably are trumping the amount of people that they were looking to hire through Tyndall or anything else.
Well, we're going to get there over time.
Yeah.
We're going to get there over time because business begets business.
Housing. I mean, come on. I was talking to Arlen Newell. If you're looking for a realtor, Arlen Newell is an awesome realtor with, I think it's Berkshire Hathaway. Is that who he's with? Wygant. Okay. Oh, sorry, Arlen. But yeah, just Google him up or whatever. Arlen Newell. And I was having a conversation with him today. And one thing I always ask him is, well, how are our rooftops? And he just said, wow, you ought to know what they're doing out at Fox Ridge.
Yeah, we got a lot of rooftops coming.
Yeah.
You know, and
hundreds and hundreds.
They're building a small city out at Fox Ridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just Fox Ridge.
Like 150.
They're not the only game in town.
Yeah, and that doesn't count for, like you said, all the other ones. Well, he said somebody, and it blew my mind, so I didn't commit it to memory after we talked about that. But he's like, well, heck, over here at this other place, there's another so many. And over here at this other place, there's so many. I'm like, I don't understand how. I mean, that's incredible.
Yes, and the real estate market has been pretty strong the last couple years. Strong enough that those of us who open up our assessments here in a few days from the county are going to go, huh? The average increase on existing homes that have not been improved going to be somewhere around 11 to 11.5%.
Wow. Okay, and for people that don't understand how this happens, okay, what happens is a community as a whole, when it's rated, let's say, dependent upon amenities, dependent upon all of the things that we have, it just kind of grows it up a little bit, right? And then that's where your overall evaluation comes in.
Yeah, and your county evaluation is supposed to be a fair market value. So when you look at that thing, I'm gonna quote Randy Haig. When you look at that thing, ask yourself this question: would I sell this house for that? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably accurate.
Yeah.
If you think you need more than that to sell your house, be happy that it's assessed where it is.
Yeah.
If you think you need a lot less to sell your house for what it's going to be listed at, then file a protest.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up.
Well, and you want your property value to increase. I mean, what I see here is as this is happening, the city and those that are in the positions to be able to make sure that our economy is moving in the right direction and it's going, up, let's say, well, they're doing their job.
Yeah. And the simple truth, and I know everybody's heard me say this before, if you want downward pressure on your mill levy, that's going to come from the growth of rooftops.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm super excited about all three of these companies.
Oh yeah.
I am absolutely inside, just over the moon.
Well, and remember,
But some of them are getting tax abatements that are 10 years out.
but okay, and I'm not an anti-tax abatement guy,
And I am not either.
Yeah.
But the reason that I bring that up is that for 10 years, they're not adding to the property tax base.
yeah,
It is the people who are going to build a new house and come live here in order to work there that are going to add to our tax base.
Yep.
That's the way this works.
and that's that's almost a year by year immediate.
So if you want a great example of how this doesn't work, look at Walton. I mean, I am not going to try and pile on top of Walton. I'm just not. But I'm just going to say this. One of the research projects that I did this last week and a half was that it was brought up during a school board meeting that maybe another board of education would be willing to take on the territory around Walton, and maybe they'd be willing to reopen that school. Well, guess what, folks? Number one, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay, because I went to the superintendents and I asked the question.
Yeah.
And with the exception of Peabody, I got no's. Peabody gave me a no comment.
Yeah.
Okay? So I really doubt that's going to happen. The reason that school has floundered, I'm just being honest, is enrollment. You know, they were talking about the possibility of this year or next, if that school was still open, that the kindergarten class would have no kids from Walton in it.
Yes.
0.
And I did know that. That was one of the reasons why.
And I'm sitting here going, whew. And then you got to ask yourself, well, why is it that way? Here's why. Little known fact. Nobody talks about this. There is a platted housing development that sits right to the west of that school. It adjoins the freaking school property. That thing has been there for better part of a decade. There has been nothing sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I got to say
that's
this.
where you need to stick
Yes.
a fan. So, you know, when I met people that were like, man, this is a great community. And at that time when I'm meeting, there's like no place to build in Newton, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe we should should we build a house here? What do you think about moving here? I would look at them and say, you know what? You got kids. Go up to Walton and buy some property there and build.
Yeah.
But nothing ever got sold.
Well, but I mean, I'm not bashing Walton or anything, but there's not really anything going on there. I mean, you're going to have to come to Newton for everything except for maybe to get gas.
And see, one of the points that I would make with folks is Dillon's 9 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, Dillon's is like a minute.
Yeah. Well,
Walmart's like 3. And if I get stuff by train,
for me, Dillon's is 2 blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 1 minute walk.
Yes.
But, you know, it's and your kids will be in the Newton school system. If they start at Walton, they'll walk to school. If you build here,
Yeah.
so they'll walk to school when they're in elementary school. Then they're going to go to Santa Fe. That's a 10-minute drive. Then they're going to go to Chisholm. That's also a 10-minute drive. It kind of depends on whether you use the overpass on the interstate or not, you know.
Train traffic.
Well, actually, for that school, there's no train traffic to be worried about. But, I mean, it's just, you sit there and go, and Newton High School, again, you're only talking about a 10, 12-minute drive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a spectacular location.
Yeah.
But no one ever built anything. Why? I don't know that answer. I don't. I have suspicions, but I don't know the answer. But it's those rooftops that are so desperately needed. Okay? If they would have gotten some rooftops up there, the tax base for that city would have grown. The student population for that school would have grown. But none of that occurred. And that's why we need to be so excited about what is going on in Newton right now. Yeah. We've got new companies coming in, and they are going, and one of the reasons that Hillsborough is coming here, the housing projects that are coming online.
Yeah, and that is, I was going to reference that. I was going to reference, if you go back and you look at the interview that we did with Hillsborough Industries, they said that was one of the main reasons. And so you know that all these places that are coming are these companies that are looking at prospective places to be. If we keep booming in our housing like we are, there's going to be more that come. There's going to be more to come. Okay.
so.
We're coming to the end of the program, Chad.
You bet.
I know it was a little bit short this week, and I apologize for everybody, but Chad, give me your last word, man.
Last word, pick up my newspaper on Saturday and read about these 3 companies and read about why this is different. And quite honestly, that we should be excited because we're getting ready to bloom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to attach that, Chad. Man, subscribe to the Kansan, okay? I get a paper copy, and I also get an email or a digital copy. The digital copy is like $5 a month, and you get like, I mean, how many papers? Okay,
3 a week.
I'll have to say this because I love the Kansan. I appreciate you, Chad. I appreciate you for being a credible, reliable, and accurate news source. I know that when I am quoting any kind of news organization in the community, it's yours because, well, you have been on point. You have been reliable. You have been credible. You do not sensationalize things. You don't write things in a certain way and change little words so you can say whatever you want to do whatever you want. And then it's not really even true when it's all said and done. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your maturity and who you are as a person. And I think that's why we became friends because, well, I knew Chad for many years when I was reading the paper before I ever met you, Chad.
Well, we've been here for 152, so there you go.
Yeah. I got one thing I want to say. I usually give the guest the last word, but there's something on my heart and I really need to say it. So I got 30 seconds to say it. If you or someone you know has a struggle with addiction, please reach out for help. You are loved, you are cared for, and no matter what is going on with you, there's help. So if you're listening right now and you or somebody you know, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a cousin, a friend, are struggling with addiction, we love you. Please reach out for help.
Amen.